Alright, welcome back. Now in this video, I'll be going through a practice paper done by a student, and we'll look at the questions and try to understand the question, and we'll look at the answers and see if they're correct, and if they're not, let's do some corrections. Let's get started. Now 4 students observe a cactus plant and notice that the leaves look like spines. If you are a P6 student and you have completed your syllabus for all the P6 topics, then this video is definitely for you. If you have not finished all the topics, or you are a P5 or P4 or P3 student, then only some of the questions will apply to you. Now this question here, question 39, is a P6 question based on the topic of of interactions with the environment. Okay, and this one is on adaptation. 4 students observe a cactus plant and notice that the leaves look like spines. Right, spines. See, actually, these spines are actually some kind of adapted leaves. Alright, usually leaves have stomata. So in this case here, the stomata are really tiny, few, because instead of big leaves like this with lots of stomata on the underside, now the leaves has become like needles, like spines, like spikes. So you can imagine the number of stomata is reduced. So why would they reduce it? So it's like this person David says, right? Which is the cactus has spines, so it doesn't lose water through its leaves. Rather, it loses less water through its leaves. So the teacher asked them to explain why cactus has spines instead of the usual leaves. The students each gave the explanation shown below. So who else got it right? Now Adam got it right as well. Now let's take a look here. So beside Adam, which other student gave the correct explanation? This kind of question is called, asks you for a claim. Now usually claim gives you 0 mark. So by giving Adam, yeah, that's correct, but there's 0 mark. Adam says a cactus has spines, so animals don't eat it. So now we need the second part, which is the reason. Now reasons for science question would be they require a scientific explanation. So what will be the scientific explanation for what Adam said about having spines so animals don't eat it? Right, so you can talk about the shark, describe the spines, right? Spines discourage animals from eating. What's it? What is this it? Eating the cactus. The sharp spines discourage animals from eating the cactus. Now I say that some animals are fended off by the spines. Does not talk about animals not eating it. Let's see. Animals are fended off by the spines. Well, I think that's possible, although the spines part, it lacks the explanation regarding the adaptation, which is they are sharp and prickly, and therefore they will poke animals that comes near to it, right? So I think this part is missing because spines is given a question, so I need to explain a little bit more. So I think this answer I can't give the full marks. Now based on the mark allocation, it seems strange. So I think in this paper, the person who designed this question actually intend to give 1 mark for the claim and 1 mark for explanation, which is very unusual at PSLE. Usually there's no marks for claim because a claim answer can just be given by guessing. Eeny, meeny, miny, mo, just guessing. So this paper so far, at least based on the first part, because the question seems to be quite lenient, but I don't think this is the I think based on this you'll get 1 mark here, and this part I think you may not get a mark. You should talk about how the spines, sharp spines, right, will discourage. So describe the spines. Besides having spines to conserve water, explain what is the other adaptation that helps the cactus to conserve water. So you need to talk about what conserves water. You make 2 mistakes here. First, you talk about the cactus buries its stem very deep to get more water. This is wrong on 2 levels. Firstly, for cactus, right, they usually have very long roots that goes into the ground to absorb water. Why must the roots be long? Because the soil is very sandy, so water actually don't get trapped in the soil easily in the desert. So it's not about the stem, it's about the roots. Now, secondly, this question talks about conserving water. Your question is not talking about conserving water, it's talking about getting more water. So therefore here, it's even if you talk about roots, it's still wrong. Instead, you talk about the stem stores water for the plant or the cactus, right? The stem stores water for the plant or cactus. You can just Google and type in these words. How do cactus adapt to survive in a desert? And you can find this stems store water. Let's move on to the next question. Bowie set up a terrarium to observe how living things interact with one another and their environment. A terrarium is basically a self-enclosed environment whereby there is water, there's some soil, there's some plants, there's some food inside, I suppose, because plants make their own food, right? And self-contained means that you actually don't have to water it very often, because the water that evaporates will condense on the surface of this sealed environment. This idea of sealed, completely sealed, and then it will fall back down as water droplets. Now she placed a number of organism A into the terrarium first. After 6 days, a number of organism B was placed into the terrarium. So let's check 6 days here. This is a 6th day. Okay. So let me get a highlighter. If you highlighter, it actually helps you to try to see all this graph and stuff. So we know that whatever happened after this is due to organism B. And here is just organism A for this part, first 6 days. So during the first 6 days, by the 3rd day, it's still the same number, but by the 4th day, the number of organisms A have increased from 4 to, I think, 13, 14, 15, to 13. Then by the 5th day, it somehow increases to 21. Amazing, right? Probably 8 hatches, I don't know. But once B comes in, notice a drop in the population of A all the way to, this is 0. By day 12, it has gone to 0. And population of B is represented by the dotted line. It increased at first, then it starts to decrease until it goes to 0. It's also on day 14. So what is the predator-prey relationship? What is the predator-prey relationship between organism A and B? So B eats A. Very good. Alright. Or you can say B is the predator and A is the prey. That answer works as well. 1 mark here. What happened to the population of organism B after day 8? So after day 8, organisms B population also, so there are 2 parts, right? First, what happened? Second part, explain what happened. So 2 parts, right? So what happened to the population of organism B? Explain what happened. So population B, organisms B population decreased due to lack of food as population of A decreased. Now this is partial mark answer. How do we get partial mark? Because when we talk about after day 8, it means this part. Get another color of the highlighter. Day 8 is here. So on day 8 means all the way down here. So your answer is missing the part that talks about 0. Alright, 0. So it must decrease until 0 to get the 1 mark. To get 1 mark for the what happened question. Alright. Second part, we got to explain what happened. Due to the lack of food as population of A decreased until it went to 0 on day 12. You got to show you understand how to read the graph. How to read the graph. So I can give you partial mark for giving the correct trend for population B, so half mark here, and correct trend for understanding the population A also decrease half mark here. That's why I give you 1 mark, but you cannot get the full marks for this. You got to talk about population B decreases as population A decreases, but when population A goes to 0, population B has no more food because it's only eating A, so population of B also go to 0. Then you get a full 2 marks for this. So 2 marks only for this question. Right, let's go on to the next one now. The table shows the organism in an aquatic habitat. Now, so far we're doing P6 question. This is also a P6 question. Huh? Now, you could be given something like this and you're asked to form a food web. Now, A can fly and can also have the ability to dive and swim in water to catch fish. Alright, A can catch fish. Sounds like a predator to me. B is a microorganism that contains chlorophyll. So this is probably a plankton. Now, you don't have to memorize this stuff, but if you know what is this, you can actually go and Google about this to find out more. Plankton is some kind of microscopic plant kind of organism. It contains chlorophyll, so it's actually able to make food. So in the food chain, in the aquatic environment, the plankton will be right at the very bottom. It's like the producer here. So B should be the producer. C is a large mammal that feeds on small fishes. Okay, and this is also a predator. D is small in size, lives in large numbers, keep its mouth open while swimming to trap microorganisms. So this is something that eats all these microorganisms. So definitely I think D fits on B is correct. This part is correct. Now arrow means eaten by. Okay, so this means B is eaten by D. Now D, so I've done with B and D. Now D could be eaten by A. Okay, it could be a fish, it's possible. D could be eaten by C. Alright, 8 small fishes. If D is a fish, then this is also definitely possible. So these 2 marks here. Now next one. During certain periods of the year, this habitat experiences an average of 5 hours of daylight instead of 9 hours. This is saying that if daylight decreases, then the microorganism will have less light to make food. And therefore there's less food made by the plankton. And that would mean that this won't contain as much, will not be able to make as much food, will not be able to multiply as much, will not be able to grow as well. Population of B should decrease. If population of B decreases, then that means the population of D will also decrease during this period of time. So this period of time could be like winter time. During winter time, the daylight hours are usually lesser. So first thing, 2 marks, right? Explain how this will affect the population. So let's state what happens to the organism B here. Let's see. Population of organism D will decrease. Okay, correct. I think the claim is correct here. Now this is not a guessing kind of claim. So the question didn't say will population of organism D increase or decrease, and then in those kind of cases claim will be 0. In this case here, there is no guiding statements or words here that says, oh, will population of D increase or decrease? It just has to explain how you affect. So it's quite open. So therefore, giving an answer like this warrant a 1 mark for this kind of claim. Now let's explain. Because of the decrease in the amount of energy in B due to lack of sunlight, I think this is fine. I think it's possible. Personally for me, I'll talk about this will lead on to a decrease in the population of B. Because if B is a plant-like kind of organism, right? It has chlorophyll. So imagine if you do not give plants any light, all the plants in the world will die because they cannot make their own food. If plants die, then the animals that depend on it will die too. So here, I think your teachers who mark this may debate about this, because this is true. There's a decreased amount of energy in B because it's not as if there's no light, but there's less light. So B will not grow as well. So I think that will lead on to a decrease in population. But I think this is arguably possible and correct. And therefore, I think I would give you full marks for this question. Next one. A beaker was covered tightly with a piece of plastic wrap so air could not enter or leave it. The beaker was then heated. The mass of the beaker was taken before the heating as shown below. Interesting. Usually, questions at PSLE, they arrange all the life science questions for the first half, right? Like first 6 questions, and the physical science question for the second half. So this is a physical science question and still the first half. So quite interesting. Right, so this is not a typical PSLE kind of format. So beaker was covered tightly with a piece of plastic so air could not enter or leave it. Beaker was heated. Mass of beaker was taken before and after heating. Let's see. Alright. So you notice that there's no change in the mass. But however, there's change in volume. The volume here was this. Now the volume here increased. Volume is a space occupied by the air inside increased. So the air expanded, but the air did not increase in mass. Increase in volume, but not mass. So mass remained the same, this part is true. Volume increased, that's true. 1 mark. Next one, without removing the plastic wrap. So this is a question that the P4 students should be able to do under the topic of matter combined with heat gain, matter expands. When matter loses heat, matter will contract. Without removing the plastic wrap from the glass beaker, what could be done so that the bulging plastic wrap could return to its original shape as at the start of the experiment in the shortest time? So without removing the plastic wrap, what could be done so that the bulging plastic wrap could return to the original shape? Just stick the glass cube in the ice water. Very good, 1 mark. So this is a question just ask you, what could be done? So you're not looking for any explanation. No scientific explanation is required. They only require you to say what can be done. Okay? There are many answers for this, but mainly just cool down the glass beaker. Now the shortest time, so don't just leave it on the table, put it in a cold environment, like put it inside the refrigerator, put it inside the freezer, things like that. Give a reason for your answer. Now this part requires a scientific explanation. The air inside the beaker will lose heat and contract. Now I'm a bit more picky when it comes to such answers. I will give half a mark. Why? When we talk about heat flow, heat must flow from a place to another place. Here you talk about heat flow partially. Air will lose heat. True. But lose heat to the cool or to the ice, the cold ice water. Let's mention cold ice water here, right? So talk about lose heat to the cold ice water and contract. This is why I will only give you half a mark here. Next one. Let's go to question 33. Yan had 3 similar rams, A, B, and C. She painted rams B and C with different strips of non-slip paint. Now this will be a P6 topic about forces, frictional force, and stuff like that. She placed 3 similar marbles, one on each of the rams at the same height as shown in the diagram below. Right, same height. So if the height is the same, so height affects the amount of gravitational potential energy that an object would have. The more height you raise an object up, the more stored energy it has that can convert to more kinetic energy as it rolls down the ram. The marbles will then roll down the rams. This is a smooth ram, alright, painted B and C with different amount of non-slip paint. The non-slip paint is a white color part in case you are not clear. This part I'm highlighting is the non-slip paint. 0 amount of non-slip paint, 3 strips. Here there will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 strips. So by right, non-slip means that it's meant to be rough, so people walk on it won't slip. So therefore, non-slip stuff would have very rough. So it generate the most amount of frictional force between the surface in contact with this. Therefore, I will expect the marble to roll down this slowly and take a longer time. So the one take a longer time is C, right? So as expected, and A, because there isn't any non-slip strips, it will roll down the fastest. So now I talk about relationship between number of strips on the ram and the time taken for the marble to reach the bottom of the ram. So all these words should appear in your answer. The more the strips there are on the rams, let's not be, stingy about this. Whatever words given here when talk about relationship, be very, very clear by using the relevant words. The longer it take, the longer time. Talking about time. Longer time it takes for the ball to roll down. Roll down where? To reach the bottom of the ramp. Now, depending on your teacher, if they want to be strict with you to coach you how to answer this properly, they'll give you a 0 or partial. I'm going to give you a 0 for this. But the relationship is correct. But use the correct words here, because words have meaning. Next one. The diagram shows non-slip strips on the slope of a bridge. Now typically for such question, the first part is experimental setup to guide you, to remind you about the science concept. Second part is the application portion. The diagram shows non-strip slips on the slope of a bridge. Explain how these strips help prevent accidents when people walk on the slope. Prevent accidents. Remember we talked about they are meant to be rough, so to increase the amount of frictional force between the surface in contact with this. So these strips increase friction where between what? Right, prevent slipping. So usually you must talk about friction in terms of 2 or more surfaces in contact. Increase friction between the soles of the shoes of these people and the bridge. Right, these strips increase the friction between the soles of the shoes of these people and the bridge and prevent slipping on the slope. Right, I'll give you partial for this for the correct science concept, but your way of phrasing for friction is not complete. So I'll give you half a mark for this question. Part C. Interesting, part C. Organism S produces mucus when it's moving along the ground. This is a snail. So mucus. So here is still about interesting. I think interesting because this is a physical science question on forces and frictional force, and yet this one is about a living thing. Give a reason why organism S produces mucus when it moves along the ground. So think of mucus like soapy water, like oil. It's like a lubricant. And the lubricant helps to reduce the frictional force between the surfaces in contact. So here, remember, very good. Reduce friction between itself and the ground and move faster. Very good. 1 mark here. Right, I'm going to take a pause here and check out the second half of check out the next video for the next part of this paper.